All right, welcome back to Virtual School Assembly. Today our guest is Mandell Frazier. Mandel is a Hollywood actor and a motivational speaker, best known for his roles in Tyler Perry's If Loving Is Wrong, CBS's The Young and the Restless, and the action series NCIS Los Angeles. The Detroit native has over 100 film, television, and commercial credits, and is also a former TV talk show host and on-air radio personality. Frazier's speaking platform is faith, fitness, and focus, and we're going to get into those three different elements today. His passion for promoting human welfare and his ongoing support of various nonprofit human services has led to him being the recipient of multiple humanitarian awards. Mandel, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you for inviting me, Tyler, and hello to all the VSA audience.
Thanks. So there's a lot I want to dig into with you, but let's start with the beginning. You're from Detroit, which is not a normal place for actors in Hollywood to come from. Tell us a little bit about your childhood and your interest early on in acting and theater.
Absolutely. First of all, I want to say go blue. At the at the end of the day, my passion for acting, I would have to say, started with my mother. She was my first director, producer, writer, casting director, you name it. You know, my first fan. My mother, I grew up in the church. I'm a Christian, grew up in the church. And long story short, my mother used to do these Sunday school skits that actually was very popular. And fortunately, my church was big enough, we had a theater. So what turned out was a skit, a Sunday school skit, ended up being an actual full blown production. And so she would obviously, pick me. And so I was doing it because it was fun. My other friends was doing it. And I think the first role I had was the good thief. It's an oxymoron. The good thief on the cross, that actually went to heaven with Jesus. And so that was my first taste of acting. And even though it wasn't a big role, but I made the role big. I might have, I think that was the first time I heard the word upstage.
Right.
I was having fun, and that's when I realized that this is something that I enjoy doing. And so that was the beginning for me. Is doing a stage play production with my mother at around maybe 9, 10 years old. And it just took off from there.
Cool. So did you do drama and theater when you were in high school?
Believe it or not, no drama or theater in high school, college. Again, it was just a hobby. It's something that I enjoy doing. My major was computer information systems, right? And I never thought about turning my hobby into a career. Hindsight being 2020, I wish I would have. I could have been like Jordan and Serena Williams and Tiger Woods and Tom Brady. Go blue. But at the end of the day, I got to rub it in, Tyler. But no, long story short, I just feel like it was meant to happen. It didn't happen when I thought. I wasn't planning on it. It was more or less me trying to find myself, but not knowing that there's an old saying that sometimes what you're looking for is right in front of you. Right. And so it took me years to figure out what I really wanted to do, And so even though I had friends of mine who who took drama and theater in high school and college, and then they would reach out to me, hey, Mandel, can you help me out with this drama play for this weekend or my thesis or whatever? And of course I was like, yeah, sure, no big deal. I didn't get paid for it. I just enjoyed doing it. But again, it never dawned on me that, hey, this could be a career path for you. There's an old saying that if you enjoy what you're doing, you would never work a day in your life. And so hindsight being 2020, I'm looking back, I'm like, wow, things, but at the end of the day, I'm glad that things happen the way it's supposed to happen. So I have no regrets.
So a lot of people in Hollywood, that's what they wanted to do their whole lives. They tried to get into acting young and then kind of grew up in LA and went from there. Obviously, your story is very different from that. Where did you first, or when did you first decide, maybe I want to try this acting thing out?
I've been very blessed and fortunate to be able to pursue my dreams. And I had other dreams before I decided to do acting. I used to model. Matter of fact, I had at one point I lived in Atlanta, Georgia, because I had signed a modeling contract. And then one of my passion was working out. I enjoy fitness.
Mhm.
Uh, Health and wellness for the most part. So when I moved to Atlanta, I wasn't thinking about acting per se. I was focusing on, being a fitness trainer, being the next Tyson Beckford, and
Mhm.
just enjoying life. And but as years went by, I remember my parents, they had me when they were older in life. Um, so when I was living in Atlanta, Georgia, I would talk to my parents on a regular, but I wouldn't see them. And social media wasn't a thing back then. It didn't exist for the most part. So I would talk on the phone, and we would have fun. But then when I would go see them, usually around the holidays, they were getting a little bit older. I would see another gray hair, another wrinkle. And so with that being said, I said, you know what? At that time, I was getting bored with Atlanta, and I'm like, you know what? I need to regroup, and I want to spend some time with my family before I head out west. And so when you never know what path God is going to take you on. But at the end of the day, I ended up moving back home for the goal was supposed to be for like a couple of years.
Mhm.
But there's a blessing in disguise because by me spending time with my parents, I found a church home, and they asked me if I would participate in some small skits at the church. And at first I said no because I wasn't trying to do that. It's been years since I've been acting, and I'm like no. But then I let them talk me into it, and I did it, and oh my gosh, it just really opened up doors for me, from
Mhm.
a creative standpoint. And so that from that point on, I was going to move to California just because I love the weather. It had nothing to do with acting initially. It was just because of the weather, the Beverly Hillbillies, the swimming pools, the beach, the mountain, the ocean. My brother at the time, he had lived in California. So he used to always talk about it. I see pictures all the time. So I was like, you know what? One day, I'm going to move there. But then now I had a reason to move to California other than the atmosphere. It was because now I was pursuing something bigger, which was my acting. And another thing about being a blessing in disguise, I met my wife, who was I've been knowing her since she was 17 years old. And long story short, we reconnected, and we ended up getting married. So you never know what God has planned for you. That's my whole point. You can have plans, it doesn't fall through. But I feel like if God has given you gifts and talents, you want to use it for His glory. You want to use it, uh, so you can. Your gift is for somebody else.
Right.
A gift is no good if you keep it to yourself. You want to give it to somebody else, and there's more power in giving than receiving. So yeah.
Mm. So I love that part of your story is your faith, and you've mentioned kind of God's um, purpose in helping you find your path. But typically when people think of Hollywood, they don't think of God, they don't think of faith as being something that gets you there. What is it about your story where you felt like acting was in your future, and it was something that God either helped prepare for you or it's one of the talents that God gave you? How did that kind of coincide?
Well, first of all, I'm not typical.
Right.
I have a saying: I may be in Hollywood, but Hollywood's not in me.
Mm-hmm.
My faith has got me to where I'm at, and it's sustaining me. So how dare I have the audacity to deny my faith? I don't care what Hollywood says. I'm not. I'm not. I didn't move to Hollywood to compromise my integrity.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. At the end of the day, I want to please God. But I understand that we all have a platform, right?
Sure.
We all have a ministry, and my ministry may not be for somebody who's came from a different path, and that's okay, because at the end of the day, I feel like in Hollywood you deal with so much rejection. Okay, and actually there's an old saying that the average actor hears more no's in a year than most people hear in a lifetime. you
Right.
know but you cannot allow that to affect your mood, your mentality, your faith. You have to have something deeper than just uh there's an old saying, my net worth does not define my self-worth. you know. So if I audition for a project, I don't get it, I'm not going to allow that to discourage me. You know, now I am human now, so I'm not going to pretend like, you know, because there's some projects I really wanted and I knew I had it and I crossed my fingers and I was like, yes, you know, I knew I claimed it, received it. I never got the phone call.
Right.
But then there were other projects I knew I blew it and they ended up getting it and it just really opened up doors for me. So you never know what direction, you know, you're gonna go.
Mandel, we've talked a little bit about your faith. I want to talk a little bit about the fitness part of your platform, because that's, you know, you were a fitness trainer before Hollywood, and obviously fitness has continued to be an important part of your life. As we're talking to kids here, what kind of advice would you give them as far as doing things now that will help them in the long term? Because I know a lot of kids in high school, they play sports, they're really active, and then as they get older, they kind of just let themselves go. They don't keep up with fitness. So what kind of advice would you give them as far as having, you know, a lifelong commitment to health and fitness?
Well, the first advice I would give would be health is the new wealth. It doesn't matter how much money you have in the bank. It doesn't matter how big your car is, how big your house is. At the end of the day, if you don't have health, you don't have too much of anything, you know? If you look at Steve Jobs, he was a multi-billionaire. And my understanding, he had over $7 billion in his bank account when he passed away.
Mm-hmm.
I can almost guarantee he would give anything. He would give all his money away if he could just have a life, a quality life. And that's what fitness does. It gives you not just a life to survive, but it helps you to thrive. And Tyler, like I told you earlier, I commend you for losing, I think it was over 100 pounds, you know, and that takes tenacity, that takes fortitude, that takes, you know, courage to say, you know what, I don't have to settle for this lifestyle. I want to have a better quality of life, not just for myself, but for my family, my children, my wife, my overall being. You want to have a better quality of life. At the end of the day, like I live by the beach, you know, and if I was to look out the window and see the ocean, the sand, the palm trees, but I couldn't partake of it, that would be horrific. You know, I want to explore every aspect of my life, you know, from a quality standpoint. And so fitness is not just a fad for me. Matter of fact, I would go even deeper. I started, you know, doing fitness training when I was a teenager I was in high school actually, you know, maybe around 14, 15 years old, because I was just tall and gangly. You know, I didn't have a lot of muscle. I was just lean for the most part. And I remember one time I was on a school bus. It was a young, one of my classmates. She was very pretty. I'm not going to say her name, but she was very pretty. And I had a crush on her. And so I remember the school bus was very packed. It was extremely packed. And there was on standing room only. And so she was one of the last one who came on the bus and she wanted a place to sit. So she's like, Mandel, can I sit on your leg? And I said, yeah, no problem. You know, I kind of played it off. You know, I'm trying to be all cool and calm and collective.
Right.
And after the first bump of, you know, of the bus ride, there was another friend of mine who was a little more beefier than I was. And she said, hey, can I sit on your lap? Mandel's leg is too skinny. It's hurting my butt. That right there was like, ding, okay, Mandel, you need to, and I'm the kind of person, I didn't know at the time, but I had a complex. I used to wear sweatshirts or sweaters under a button-down shirt in the summertime because I was embarrassed of my body because I felt I was too skinny. And I'm being transparent, you know, for the most part. So a lot of people, when they see me, they thinking, oh, you've been like this all your life. No, there was a starting point. There was a foundation that was laid for me to build upon. And so my story was just the opposite of yours, but the same type of results in terms of I was tired of how I looked. I felt like, you know, I was too small for my age. I've always been tall. You know, I was like 6'1". I'm 6'2" now, but at the time I think I was 6 feet, 6'1", but I didn't have no size to me. And so I started working out and I started doing my due diligence. I was crazy about Arnold Schwarzenegger and I was to follow him. I used to buy his books and his posters would be all in my room. And I said, someday I want to be like, I want to look like him for the most part. And so that was my motivation. I had to put pictures on the wall to remind myself that's where I want to be at. I didn't want to focus on where I was at. I had to focus on where I was going. And so my brothers who had weights in the basement, when they was at school or at work, they didn't want me to, when I was there, they didn't want me to touch it. But when they would go to be at work in school, I would sit down in the basement and I would start working out. And over time, they started noticing that, wait a minute, you can, what's going on here, And so I started training myself, and then one day I convinced my mother to let me join a gym so that I could, take it to a different level. And I met some trainers and they kind of took me under their wings and showed me the basic fundamentals. And then from there, Tyler, it's just, it became a hobby, a passion, and then eventually a career, and even though it's not a career now, people still, I'm on the beach, I'm riding a bike, I'm jogging, I'm playing beach volleyball, I'm hiking, I'm at Walmart, I'm at the post office, no matter where I'm at, and I'm on set, somebody would come to me and say, hey, do you train?
Right.
What I do, I just kind of joke around and say, yeah, I charge $250 an hour. And I keep forgetting I'm in Hollywood. And so they say, oh, you're cheap, Actually, when can I come train them? I'm like, no, I'm just joking around. I don't train, I can give you some basic fundamentals, because again, if my gift is, if one of my gifts is training and giving back, then I want to do just that for the most part. So no, that, from a psyche standpoint, from a confidence standpoint, it really just it gave me what I needed to be confident. Now I can walk around in shorts and a t-shirt or no shirt, and hindsight being 2020, I'm looking back, I'm like, wow, Mandel, you came a long way.
Right. So I want to take a couple things from this. First, you mentioned early on when you were in high school that you were a little insecure because you were so skinny, and I was in a similar boat. I was actually a really skinny teenager, but for me, the issue was I sweat like crazy, and I was so self-conscious about it. And so just like you did, I wore so many layers. Even during the summertime, I was wearing 4 or 5 shirts at a time because if I could sweat through 2 or 3 of them, then I had to wear 4, And so I want to point this out because there's so many kids watching this that are in that age group, middle school, going into high school, where there are things about your body or the changes that you're going through that you're going to feel self-conscious about. I know, because I teach 5th graders and it's starting in 5th grade. And kids think that they're the only ones that are having those issues, and it's not true. We have famous Hollywood celebrities that went through the same thing, but there are a few things you can do about it. One is, if something you feel is weird going on in your life, research it and find out why it's feeling weird. Chances are everyone's going through what you're going through, and it's just good to know that. But the other thing that Mandel mentioned here that I think is significant is he wanted to do something about it. So he started training, he started finding those weights. And even if he didn't bulk up, he's still going to gain that confidence because he's being proactive. And I think that's an important message for kids is there often is something you can do. You can be proactive about situations that make you feel uncomfortable.
Absolutely.
So, now, kids are going to kill me if I don't talk about Hollywood. So let's talk about Hollywood for a minute. You've been in lots of different projects. Have you had a favorite one? Is there a favorite project that you were in, a role, or just being involved with certain people? Any highlights there?
Well, wow, that's a good question. When you're pursuing your dreams, and every project, big or small, you just happen to be in that space, right? Mm-hmm. I will probably say one of the more recent projects I've done, I shouldn't be talking about it because it's still in development, but I did I played my first superhero.
Oh, no way.
Yes, I played my first superhero, and I don't want to talk too much about it, but it's with Marvel Comics, and I've never, people would tell me, you should, because, a lot of times in Hollywood, you can get typecast.
Right.
One thing about me being an African-American in Hollywood, I felt it was very important for me to choose wisely my roles.
Hmm.
So I told my agent, there's some roles I won't do because it's not just about me. It's about me leaving an impact. You
Right.
know, family, my friends, young kids growing up, because kids are impressionable. When you're in junior high school and high school, you're very impressionable. So you're
Sure.
still trying to find yourself, your niche for the most part.
Hmm.
And so, but playing that superhero, that was something that it was green screen, 3D scan,
Hmm.
uh, fight scene. I mean, it was just really awesome. And actually, I gotta make sure this is a pandemic. We're still in a pandemic, and so the directors and producers are still. But the producers gave me a small clip that I was able to post on my IMDb page. So now I have to admit it is a little graphic in terms of it's an adult cartoon for the
Right.
most part, superhero I should say, not a cartoon,
Right.
adult superhero. So you have to be over 18 to watch it. But it's uh, it's more or less something that I did because a friend of mine I did about several years ago I did a short film for the New York Film Academy.
Hmm.
And this is what I mean by small things. Uh, Sometimes there's a blessing in disguises because of the fact that I did a short film and I got cast for it. It was a thesis project for the New York Film Academy. Well, long story short, this short film went all the way to Cannes Film Festival, got picked up, just distribution, and so the cinematographer for that project was the producer for the superhero project years later. So
Cool.
you plant seeds, and you never know where those seeds are going to lead for the most part. So to go full circle with this, he reached out to me because he's been following me on social media, and this
Right.
is why you keep your social media clean, kids. You know,
Right.
students, they keep it clean because as you look at the news, people who are, as a matter of fact, I think there was a actor who was I forgot the name of the show. I think it was Flash Gordon, and he got a big role, recurring role in a hit show. But because of past posts that was racially insensitive, they end up, basically firing him.
Oh.
So a lot of times people could, and I think what the post he had, he deleted it, but somebody had already screenshot it. And
Right.
so you have to be careful when you're in junior high and high school. You can post things, but then as years go by, because as you're young, you think you're gonna live forever, but you're not thinking that down the road things could come back and haunt you, and it can affect your career, whether it's in entertainment, whether it's college, whatever it is. It could be something that could really harm you in the long run. So you don't want to have that negative mark. We all make mistakes, but if you can learn from other people's mistakes, then I think you're ahead of the game. So, but no, he was following my posts on social media, and then one day he reached out to me and said, "Hey, I'm working on a new project, and I think you'd be a great fit for it. We need a new face. We don't want the same old, same old." Hollywood loves new faces. So if any students are looking to pursue a career in the entertainment industry, do your due diligence. Don't just come to Hollywood thinking that it's going to happen. That's only in the movies. You have to do your part. Take classes and educate yourself. Work on your craft for the most part. So when you come here, you have the confidence you need to go to the next level. Because sometimes you can have everything in place and still it can be challenging. So you have to, there's a reason why we're less than 1% make it, not to discourage anybody, but who's to say you're not that 1%? That means somebody made it.
Right.
So at the end of the day, pursue your dreams, have fun. But no, I think I could say one of my favorite roles was when I played a superhero, and I was I wasn't a bad guy. I was actually the good guy, and I had fun with it. I had a
Yeah.
chance to really. They gave me the comic book, and it was autographed by the writer,
Oh,
and
cool.
I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes. But that was something. And again, this all falls into me taking care of myself. Because
Right.
I every now and then I post workouts, small workouts on social media, things you can do at home, things you can do. Everybody doesn't live next to the beach like I do, so you have to be creative, right? I believe, Tyler, you're in Utah. A lot of flat lands there, but you also have the mountains. So there's things you can do to be creative. We are in a pandemic, which means that we have to learn to adjust to our environment without losing ourselves in the process. You know, and people are, some people are gaining weight because they're stressed out, they're eating too much, they're not working. And so this is where my faith comes in. It gives me peace of mind. It lets me know that, hey, regardless of what's going on outside of me, I have peace within me. It doesn't mean that I'm perfect. It doesn't mean that I'm not uh, uh, exposed to what's going on. It's just that I changed my mindset. So instead of looking at the glass as half empty, I choose to look at it as half full.
Right. That's cool. Well, I love your story. And I love your enthusiasm, not just for your faith, but what you're doing, for your career. And I'm so thrilled that you're having so much success. Kids watching this, I think a lot of them have stars in their eyes and they're thinking, I want to be in Hollywood too. If you could go back in time 10 years and give yourself some advice, what are some of the things about Hollywood that you wish you'd known? What are some of the challenges and the obstacles that you've faced in the last 10 years or so?
What obstacles within the last 10 years I wish I had known prior to moving to Hollywood? Good question. Well, let's see here. If I can just be perfectly honest, I think with me, it was just, when I first came out here, I was gung ho. Now I didn't come out here unprepared. Before I moved out here, I actually transferred my job. I was a fitness, as I told you earlier, I was a fitness director for LA Fitness, and I was able to transfer to California from the Midwest. And but I made connections. I networked. There's always room for improvement. Would I have done anything different? Absolutely, I would have done something different. But I would have not so much different. I would have tweaked some things. I think when I first came out here, I was so driven. I was so focused, and it was all about trying to make a career out of the entertainment industry for the most part. And so when I came out here, I took all the classes. I was networking. I was trying to be where I was supposed to be at. I was just trying to just really, kind of start off slow and gradually build. And it was, to me, it was more or less a sprint as opposed to a marathon. Right. So I was able to surround myself around a good team of people that was able to keep me grounded. And then I had family that would support me. I had friends that would support me. I think I had told you prior to us starting this video, when I first moved to California, before I moved to California, I never told anybody why I was moving to California. They kind of figured that out once they saw me on TV. I kept my dreams to myself. I didn't want to tell everybody what I was trying to do because I didn't want even though I was confident in what I was doing, I didn't want the naysayers. I didn't want people who they have, for the most part, they have, they want to support you, but then they still like, wait a minute, are you sure this is not a pipe dream? Are you sure that, maybe you should have a career that's more steady, insurance, life insurance, and that's the 401k and vacation and a steady income. Well, I've been there, done that, so I made up my mind, this is what I wanted to do. At the time, I wasn't married, no kids. And so I said, you know what? I would rather do it now than to be 60, 70, 80 years old, looking back on my life saying, I wonder what my life could have been. Would have, should have, could have, but I didn't. So I want to tell all your students out there, if you have dreams, pursue your dreams, have fun, do your due diligence. Life does not owe you anything, okay? The good thing about living in America is that you have the opportunity to pretty much do what you want to do within reason. We obviously we have some social issues going on, but at the end of the day, you have to understand that you want to leave an impact. And I always tell people this. When I used to be a trainer, I tell my clients, and now I just use it it's part of my mantra, that on your tombstone, there's going to be the year you was born and the year you died. And that dash in the middle represents your life. what will your dash say about you? Because that's what people remember, your dash. And isn't it ironic that the Bible says that basically our life is but a vapor? You know, it's a dash for the most part. So I want people to look at my dash and say, you know what, he made an impact. You know, my legacy was I gave back. You know, that's another thing too. I believe in giving back to the community. I believe there's more power in giving than receiving. You know, I'm downtown on Skid Row, helping to feed and clothe the homeless and less fortunate because I feel like that's part of who I am, you know, and I want to give back. But no, I just want to encourage your students just to stay strong, stay positive, stay motivated, stay encouraged. Don't let this pandemic, don't let the peer pressure, social media get you down. You know, you have to be creative. You have to be strong-willed, strong-minded, whether you're pursuing a career in Hollywood or a career in the medical field or, you know, in law enforcement. You want to make sure that you do your due diligence and stay positive, stay focused, and have fun enjoying this life because life is short.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for spending this time with us today, Mandel. It's been awesome to hear your experiences and the lessons that you've learned and passing that on to our students. If the kids want to follow you or find you online, where's the best place for them to look for you?
Well, I believe in keeping things simple in life. So any of my social media platforms, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, whatever, you can go to Mandell Frazier, MANDELL FRAZIER, Mandell Frazier. And, you know, if you want something positive and uplifting and it's encouraging, just go to my Facebook page or any of my pages and just get encouraged for the most part. But that's the best way to reach out to me.
Cool. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Tyler.